We begin with Group A. It's the Netherlands, Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar host nation in Group A. Looking forward to that first kick. It's going to be Qatar against Ecuador. But let's begin with the Netherlands, who are favourites to obviously top this group. Current FIFA rankings is number 8. Obviously, they got a familiar face leading the team. Nigel, the Netherlands have a tremendously talented squad. They should do damage in this competition. As you can see by the odds, they are favourites to do well and get to the knockout stages and potentially make some serious noise. But can they make noise? What's your overall impression of the Netherlands?
They've got a good chance. The talent's there now. I think there's been a couple of years of redevelopment and they've got a real good squad. Some great young talent we're seeing across, playing at obviously likes of Barcelona, Juventus and stuff. And it goes back to the Netherlands of old when they were really great with some of the legends and again, playing across Europe. But you've got a lot of young players in Netherlands' side getting a lot of great experience at top level clubs and playing Champions League football as well. But I always feel when it comes to that big moment, that vital moment, Netherlands really flat to deceive. They've got the talent, but I feel that they're still missing that real kind of edge, that real bit of, I don't know if you'd say it's personality or whether it's belief, but they're missing that something still where I can say, right, this Netherlands side really has what it takes to go all the way. I think they've done great. I think they always have a chance because of the quality of the players that they have at that squad. But whether they can go all the way, I always feel there's something just still always missing in Netherlands.
JJ, what's your thoughts?
You know what? I don't know why, but I'm strangely high on the Netherlands. I feel they're going to have a really good tournament. I don't quite know what it is because you look at some of Van Gaal's decisions. He's left out some experienced players, some players that you'd feel are sort of obvious, players that definitely should be on the plane that haven't gone. Sven Botman, I mean, I think he's still awaiting his senior Dutch debut as well. You've got guys like Gravenberch who have just unfortunately, fallen foul of making a move at the wrong time in terms of their form petering out and not keeping them in contention. You've got guys like Brian Brobby, I guess, also kind of falls into that bracket. Malen as well at Borussia Dortmund. But there's something about this group of players and the sort of the mission that they're going to go on under Van Gaal. I mean, obviously it's going to be his last international tournament. He is a fantastic coach, both at club level and international level. I know it didn't work out at United, but aside from that, he's a fantastic career and it kind of feels like a last hurrah. And I don't know, there's just something that's telling me that the Dutch are going to impress. They have a lot of talent, a lot of potential flair there. Some players with a bit of experience who are still probably going to be there the next couple of international tournaments as well. So for me, I'm actually banking on the Dutch to go quite far and turn quite a few heads.
Yeah, it's a great point, actually, when you say that they missed out in, 2018 as well. So there's a point to be proved by a nation that has been hurt by that. But also, Van Gaal has been very outspoken about this competition in general, where it's taken place, the human rights issue. So watch for the fireworks that could potentially happen with the Netherlands. What are you expecting from them in general? Give me a prediction, Nigel, how far this Netherlands team could go for you.
I think they'll get out of the group stage, definitely. Maybe they could probably make it to the quarterfinals, I'd say.
What about you, JJ? How far can they go?
You see, I've got them down as definitely getting to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, sort of some of my predictions kind of cross over and collide a little bit because I'm convinced that Argentina will, probably go all the way. And then they will obviously meet the Dutch, assuming that both top their groups at the quarterfinal stage. So I don't know. I'm trying to reconcile these two feelings that one, Argentina will win, but the Netherlands will go really deep and impress. So we'll see how that one works itself out. But I think quarterfinals I can definitely see. And I think as well, when you going back to the squad selection for a moment, there have been some players who, I mean, for example, I saw Wijnaldum up close at PSG, and then obviously he moved to Roma, got really unfortunate with when he picked up his injury. But I had been struggling to see sort of what he was bringing to the Dutch national team, with the exception of that, very hot run of form that he had at the beginning of Euro 2020. And I'm curious now to see what this next generation of Dutch talent can bring. And I think there's also this kind of unknown factor that's going to contribute towards them being maybe one of the surprise teams that does better than many expect at this tournament.
All right, let's have a look at the second favourites in the groups to actually qualify into the knockout stages. That would be Senegal. Obviously, a tremendously talented roster. Current FIFA ranking sits at number 18 in the world right now. Obviously, doing incredibly well in Africa. Very successful year for them. They have talent, no doubt about it, in their squad, in their roster. They have had that success, Nigel. Obviously in Africa. Can they translate that success with the players that they have? Obviously, you have the question mark about how Mane is and how he's going to be when it comes to the competition. But where's your thoughts on what they can do? I have them getting out of the group stage. Just think they're too good. Got a great goalkeeper as well. Just think they're too good for Ecuador and Qatar. I think they get out the group. But what do you think of them overall?
I'm with you, Ian. I think they definitely get out the group. I think I probably am more with Senegal being a surprise package more so than the Netherlands. I think that, again, like we give credit to Van Gaal, I think we'll give credit to Aliou Cisse. I think Cisse's done a fantastic job, given the opportunity. Really has gone a long way with this Senegal side and the way he is. And I think that for me, it's not really, how do I describe it in the right way? I will probably say that he's got that balance right of the freedom to express themselves culturally in understanding it, but he's got a great organization, as in Western society, European organization of the game of football. That's the difference, and that's what he's done. They're definitely the best team, obviously, in Africa, winning the African Cup of Nations. I think Sadio Mane is going to play a part, and I think messaging to the players is going to play the biggest part. Because sometimes when I look at these African nations, if I'm going to be very critical, once it gets to these kind of World Cup stages, there becomes a bit of selfishness and too much individuality where players are shooting from 60, 70 yards, where anything else they wouldn't do it, but it's to try and grab attention and catch attention to try and get a move, because some of these players might be playing in not so luxurious leagues. But when you've got Senegal and you look at the talent they've got, and a lot of the players playing in top leagues in Europe, that kind of eliminates that kind of silly mentality, as I call it. And now I think there'll be a lot more focus, because a lot of these guys are already playing in top leagues in Europe. They're already there. Now it's to take a nation and the continent of Africa to another level. So I think that definitely needs to be something that's mentioned. But I can see them doing well, getting out of the group stages like yourself. And again, it depends how far they'll go, but definitely out of the group stages for me.
Jay?
Yeah, I think I can see Senegal definitely coming as one of the top two teams in this group. I had them pegged to come behind the Netherlands. Obviously, there's quite a few players in this squad, given the links with French football who I've seen playing here in Ligue 1, Ligue 2 over the years. My biggest question, I think, for this Senegal side is, if Sadio Mane is not fully fit, and we assume that he's probably not going to be for at least a couple of the group stage games, is where the goals come from, because you've got players who could potentially step up and be that source of goals, but they don't do it on a regular basis. I think Boulaye Dia would probably be my pick to be the kind of guy who could provide a semi-regular source of goals. But since he left France, he had his moments with Villarreal, especially in the Champions League last season, but he's moved on again to Salernitana. And I just feel like there's kind of a lot of responsibility on Sadio Mane's shoulders, not only for what he does on the pitch, but sort of for who he is off the pitch as well. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how other star players as well, the likes of Idrissa Gueye, some of these guys who are getting on a bit now, Sheku Kouyaté as well, hold up in this competition, because Koulibaly has looked a bit off the pace since he joined Chelsea. So I do think that there are some questions, despite the fact that I fancy them to finish in the top two.
Yeah, I'm with you both there. And obviously, if they do finish second in the group, there's a possibility that they could face England in the knockout stages, which is going to be very interesting to watch indeed. And as Nigel just pointed out there, Aliou Cisse has been in charge for a long time now. So you can tell that the chemistry, that this group looked like it's completely bought into his ideas, the way they want to play. But also, I love the chemistry. I love the way that they're playing with this passion, this enthusiasm for life. And when you get to a World Cup stage, and this is a great opportunity for them to showcase for Africa, watch out for what Senegal could do. I hope Mane is 100%. I hope he can give everything he's got, because if he can, They have every chance of creating some big upsets in this competition, but whether they can make it to the quarterfinals and further will be soon to be determined. Let's move on. We'll move on quickly to Ecuador and Qatar. We'll start with Ecuador real quickly. Obviously, coming into this competition, they do have a good coach in Alfaro. They have some key players that they can rely on heavily. They're not favourites to get out of the group, but I think they'll push Senegal very, very closely and possibly cause some troubles to the Netherlands as well. JJ, can you see anything from Ecuador? I mean, there could be trouble.
I mean, they've started to have a few players representing them now in Europe. I know that all eyes are going to be on Moises Caicedo, but they've got other guys as well, like Piero Hincapié at Bayer Leverkusen as well. So, and Jackson Porozo as well, who I think's had a fairly decent start to the season for quite an inconsistent Trois. And there are a couple of guys there, I think, who play in MLS as well. So I do think that there is some quality in that group. And to be honest, I think it could be quite close between them and Senegal to get out of the group behind the Dutch. But if I had to put them in order, I'd say that Ecuador are probably my third favorite to emerge from the group at this moment.
I'll have to agree with JJ on that, mate. I don't think there's much more for me to add. I think Caicedo is definitely going to be the heartbeat of this Ecuador team. I think more than anything, it's going to be a good learning process. They continue to develop the talent that they have coming through, and the more experience they get, probably in European football, so to speak, the more beneficial it will be for them. But I still see Senegal getting ahead of them.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing how they do, though, Ecuador. I think they could surprise a lot of people because not many people are talking about them getting out of the group, and that includes us as well. But watch out, a couple of LAFC winners of Major League Soccer in amongst that group. Estupinan also, who's been terrific for Brighton. They are a team to be worried about. Not so much can we say about Qatar, the home nation. Obviously, going into this competition, we don't know much about their squad. I've watched them play against the USA, obviously, recently over the last year. I was pretty impressed with the quality and ability. I find it very difficult to see so many home, domestically based players having any chance of causing an upset. But in that opening game, I mean, let's not forget this. Qatar moved the opening game to play ahead of, obviously, Senegal and the Netherlands so that they could get all the attention. They play Ecuador. Do they have any chance whatsoever, Nigel, Qatar? Any chance?
Not really. I wouldn't say it's completely like I love to look at the glass half full, not half empty. But nah, I think Ecuador's just got too much for them. I don't really know too much about Qatar. I think it's more so any of a feel-good factor, feel-good thing, obviously with the World Cup being held in Qatar. But in all seriousness, you'd have to say that Ecuador will probably beat them.
JJ?
I think as well, cast our minds back to some of the World Cups gone by, Japan and South Korea, South Africa, they come into this Qatar as a bit of an unknown quantity because we didn't really know too much about those sides either. And there is always this eagerness, to perform and to show something, especially in the opening match. I mean, South Africa scored the opening goal in their own World Cup. And obviously South Korea, really made an impression in the knockout phase as well, when they had the World Cup on home soil. So I think that to an extent, people will be watching that opening game very, very intently. Certainly, the Group A opponents to work out exactly what they're going to be up against when they come up against Qatar. I don't think it'll be enough to get them out of the group, but could it land them a shock result or two, perhaps being able to hold the likes of an Ecuador, maybe even a Senegal to a draw? Sure, I think there is the possibility of that. But to be honest, I also think that there is quite a possibility that they show well for themselves in the opening game and then kind of fall away.